I'm Catherine Wygant-Fawcett. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Family-Owned Business, otherwise known as IFOB. And it's great to have you all here in person and also on Zoom. So I know there's a camera here, so you can see us. We have Brooke Stewart, our Director of Communications. She'll be our tech expert and the chat moderator. And if we're not being loud enough or you can't hear us on Zoom, please reach out to Brooke and we'll get some microphones and get things going. We're recording the program. You all saw that. This is our later viewing. After we have the program, we'll send it out with the resources and things. So we'll have that, and we'll also put it on the website. I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Breakwater Group from Morgan Stanley, being Biz, and our host, Barry Dunn, for this lovely facility. As many of you know, the IFOB is a nonprofit that helps family businesses succeed. We're offering over 40 programs again, and everybody sees my very fun little hierarchy chart that keeps us organized. Many of the educational programs are held right here, and Brooke will also put this in the chat for people on Zoom. And we think we're going to make it interactive, so we're working on it. All the green programs are good for all employees and anyone, so please come and join us. Today, we're kicking off our How To's educational series. Our EOS panel, From Vision to Action, Unlocking Family Business Potential with Laura McDowell, professional EOS implementer. And it's based off of this book, Traction. So she did like my dog-eared notes in here, Brooke and I. There's only two of us, so there's not as many buckets or places for us to go in, but we're working on it. We have a great panel who will discuss their insights, some from fully implemented and some that are just learning. And then we also have an EOS think tank down in this little box here. It's a peer group for people who are using EOS or thinking about using EOS, and we do IDS. So identify, discuss, and solve. So we meet with supporter for that. So that's been a really helpful group, and some of them are in the group. So that is and so that's a great program. It's at Laura's office, and you're having an open house.
I am having an open.
If people want to come and see her location on Forest Avenue. Our next how-to is on Tuesday, June 12th in the same room here. And it's how to manage. Anybody have any problem employees or getting accountability from anyone? Anyone? No? Okay, you don't need to come. We're having a lawyer's perspective, and we're also having an HR person's perspective. So I think that'll be a really good program. Some other programs include our Wine and Nine golf series. We teach women how to play golf, or if they already know how to play golf, we have a league. We asked them if we could let the men in, and they're like, no, but then we'll let you in for the scramble. So you can do that on July. That is on July 15th. We have the league at Sunset Ridge in Westbrook, and then we have the scramble at the Nonsuch, and we do a 9 and an 18, so you can do both. And we have a fun barbecue for lunch. There's whole sponsorships available if anybody wants to do that, and it includes a team as well. We have our other peer groups. We have our Next Gens, our Women's Leadership Forum, Working Parents, and the EOS Think Tank. And then mark your calendars. Anybody been to the awards before? Anyone? Hands? Yeah, okay. Do you know how we have a great awards night? You all participate. You all nominate family businesses. So the nominations are open. It's on our website. There's a button there. And we'll have great food networking. We're bringing back our trade show. They don't need to be members of the Institute to be nominated. Neither do you. It's free. Anybody can do it. And if they complete the application, and they're not members, they get 2 free tickets to the awards night, and they get a free membership through the rest of the year. And we'll have Amanda Hill as our host, and we're bringing Nielsen Macy Vanilla, Matt Nielsen. It's vanilla extracts. So and they're tied in with James Beard. So it's not gonna just be plain vanilla. It's gonna be a fun event. So we'd love to have you. And then the next day we get to have an in-depth conversation with him. So you get to be able to speak with the speaker. We'll have that here. At the end of the program, we'll have those surveys. We put them out on the table for you. If you'd please, and Brooke will put it in the chat, if you would please answer those, because that's how we build our programs each year. And we will have some door prizes. There's a lovely bag down there with 3 of them. So, thank you, Laura. So now I'll invite Laura in just a minute to come up. And I'd like to thank the panel personally for coming in here and doing your insights. We have Joe Curesky, Chief Operating Officer for Packaging. We have Mike Davis. Oh, you all sat in order. Nice. Mike Davis, Industrial Roofing Company. Ben Cameron, President of Harbor Digital, and Stacey Morrison, CEO and owner of Ganneston Construction. So there we go. And I'll turn it over to you.
Also, thank you so much, Catherine.
Good morning, everybody. If anyone wants to come sit up front, there's lots of space right here. So thank you all so much for being here. I know that you all have very busy schedules, so it means a lot that you decided to come and spend your morning with us. I am Laura McDowell. As Kat said, I am a certified EOS implementer here in Southern Maine. And what that means is I get to work with growth-minded business leaders and owners to help them get more of what they want from their businesses. More clarity, more accountability, more balance, by bringing structure to how they operate and lead their businesses. Today, I am really excited to have this panel of 4 people. I know Kat has just introduced them. I'm going to have them introduce themselves in a little bit, but I want to let you know that this day is not about EOS. It's not a sales pitch for EOS. It is about you. And it's about the unique challenges and opportunities that come with running a family-owned business. Okay. So today we're going to talk honestly about what it's like to grow a healthy, sustainable business with the team dynamics, with managing communication hurdles, with making decisions every day that impact not just your business, but your family. Okay. And so some of the things that I'm hoping you're going to walk away from today with are hearing some real relatable stories, getting some ideas that you can take back to your team from here, and hopefully some inspiration from your peers who are juggling the challenges of the messy human stuff that comes along with building something worth building. Okay, so I want to bring up my notes really quick because I want to ask the audience some questions just to get an idea of who we've got here today. So, a second. Okay, so how many of you today are part of a family-owned business? Few of you. I'm seeing some like hands. How many of you that are part of a family-owned business, or maybe not even necessarily, but how many of you work with one or more members of your own family? Couple people. Okay. And who here has felt the challenge of balancing family dynamics with business decisions? A few people. And our friends at home, I hope that you're raising your hands. And who here feels like they may be wearing too many hats right now in their business? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. What that is usually a sign of a growing business. But it can also be a warning that you may need to get more intentional about structure. And anyone here currently working on succession planning, future generation of your business? Couple people. So chances are, if you are here today, whether you are part of a family-owned business or not, you've probably felt some tension between doing things the way you've always done them, perhaps in a family business, that tradition, right? The tradition of how we've always done things. And growth, right? Like what got us here won't necessarily get us to the next stage of our business. Between potentially family loyalty or loyalty to all of our existing employees and accountability, right? Keeping people accountable, making sure that we're doing what we really need to be doing for the business. And things like being stuck in the weeds of working in your business versus being able to take that step back and really work on your business. All right, if any of those things feel familiar to you, you're not alone, you're normal, okay? Most common challenges I see with businesses are things like unclear roles and responsibilities. People aren't sure where they fit. Everyone's doing everything. There's a lot of like, I do this, you do that. We don't know who's really accountable. Lack of accountability, especially in a family business where everyone feels like family. We're all family, right? Communication, decision-making breakdowns are really common. And then that weight of succession planning. Again, whether it's a family business or not, what's next for your business? Will it just end for you? Or is there a plan in place? And what does that plan look like? So again, you're normal. There's no shame in this idea of maybe hitting a ceiling, this idea that you've gotten to a certain point, and you just need to figure out what you got to do to break through to the other side. Okay, it means your business is ready for its next evolution, which is an awesome, exciting, fun thing. All right, those are going to keep happening as long as your business exists. So don't shy away from them. So this is why I'm so excited to have our panelists here today. These are real people just like you. All right, they are going to share their stories. They're going to share what's worked. They're going to share what maybe they've struggled with. They're going to share what they're still figuring out in their businesses. And so again, I'll repeat, we've got Joe Curesky, did I say it right, Joe? From Volk Packaging, COO of Volk Packaging. We've got Mike Davis, President of Industrial Roofing Company, IRC, Ben Cameron, President of Harbor Digital Systems, and Stacey Morrison, the President of or CEO and owner of Ganneston Construction. So I want to get us into the heart of what we're here to do, to hear this, have this conversation with our panelists, hear their real stories of how they're navigating the complexities of running and growing their businesses. What I love about this particular group of people is not all that they're just that they're amazing humans, but that they are all at different stages. All right. And they've all come at this from different places. And so while they have different perspectives and they're in different spots on their journeys, there's going to be common threads and themes that we can all learn from with everything they're going to share with us today. So I want to have each panelist introduce themselves, their business, and where they are in their journey. So Stacey, do you want to kick us off with just a brief overview of your business, where you are with implementing?
Sure. So I'm actually in two family businesses, CPM Constructors in Freeport and Ganneston Construction in Augusta. I devote my time to Ganneston. The company's been in business since 1963 in the residential market. I purchased the company with my dad as a silent partner in 2001. Today, we're a 100% woman-owned company, serving the state of Maine, specializing in renovation, historical renovation, and new construction, delivering it through general construction, construction management, and design build services. The company's grown from a $3 million company to $15 million. But we've also had our ups and downs over the years through economic recessions. I reached out to Laura after meeting her at a presentation at a leadership group I belong to. And we officially started on November 4th. We're 6 months into the process. And we roll out to our employees next month.
Very exciting. Stacey. Ben.
Good morning. Ben Cameron with Harbor Digital Systems. We do managed IT services and cybersecurity solutions for businesses in the small and medium-sized market. We're based out of Brunswick. I've been doing this for 24 years. I was originally a deep sea engineer out of Maine Maritime and, fought and clawed to stay in the state and was able to develop a business that I can help keep other people wanting to stay in the state also here. So it's very exciting on that piece. I think there's more time to get into the depth of how we got and found EOS, but we are about 1.5 years, 2 years fully implemented into EOS. Very exciting journey. And man, it works. You got to have something. EOS is definitely something and it fits us perfectly. So.
Mike?
Again, Mike Davis, Industrial Roofing. We're primary office is in Lewiston, Maine. We have an office in Haverhill, Massachusetts as well. We're about 130 employees, doing businesses primarily in those 3 states. We started, we're actually, I like to say a 4th generation company. So started in 1945, and I'm the first non-family owner. So learned a lot of family business dynamics in those transitions as well. And we started EOS, I would say about 4 years ago, and we sort of did it ourselves, kind of read the books, learned about it and dabbled in it. And then when we established our leadership team and really started to get going, they encouraged me to bring in an implementer. And so we're in year 3 with Laura working on it.
I'm Joe Curesky, COO of Volk Packaging, which is a 3rd generation and hopefully a 4th generation corrugated packaging plant in Biddeford. And then we also have a secondary company, which is Volk Paxit, which is 3PL assembly, e-commerce, stuff like that. And I'm the director of operations down there. We've been on EOS now for 2 years. Difficult really to start because I am the integrator and I joined Volk about 3 months before starting this journey. So, penetrating into a family-owned business, teams that been together for 25 years. And here's a completely new way of doing business with a completely new person. So, very challenging. So we're 2 years in now. I think we're well on our way. A lot of bumps in the road, but at one point, after about a year, I realized that transition from new teammate to running EOS for everybody had some hurdles that were going to be hard to overcome, and I waved the white flag, and we hired an implementer that we've had now for 3 quarters. So that has been a huge help. So someone like with Laura, we could bounce our ideas, our challenges, our issues off of them. They can help us help everybody else within the organization. So very excited to talk about some of the things today.
Thank you all so much for the intros. What I'd love to kind of get into, and again, thank you for all the EOS praise, but what I really want to drive home is structure, okay? It's understanding that there are systems that are already together that can help you run your business and make it easier and more manageable and really free you up to have the mental space and the time and energy to focus most on the things that are most important for you and your role in your business. Aside from EOS, which of course I'm a huge fan of, there are lots of other ways that you could do this. There are other business operating systems. So I want to just make that clear. Obviously, they are all have chosen and are using EOS, but I want to get an idea from all of you, what inspired you to start looking for a business operating system or a way of bringing more structure into your business? Does someone else want to kick us off on this one so I don't make Stacey go first every time? Sure, Ben.
So, being in the business for 24 years, doing IT, you start to grow weary. You're like, okay, we've got a great group of people where, the phone call comes in, everybody jumps on it. People are trying to figure out what's happening. You got the boss in the background going like this and just totally disrupting everybody while they're trying to get the work done. We hit the ceiling. We couldn't get past a certain revenue amount that we was like, look, we want to get to here. So what do? All right, let's go get marketing. Marketing would be great. I sit down with an outside marketing person. So tell me about your core values. I guess I should know that, shouldn't I? That made me start backtracking a little bit and taking a look at core values and different things. And I, of course, found something talking about EOS. Same time, I have another conference I went to for doing the IT and all the cyber pieces, and they mentioned traction at the conference. And I was like, it's this book. I love books. I'm good for audiobooks. We do a lot of driving on the road, going to customers. So picked up this book, listened to it. I was like, wow, that's a lot of what we already have been trying to do, put in place, haven't quite figured out. And then there was another one, I think, called Get a Grip, which tells it, I think that was the name of the book.
Yeah.
And it tells it from the first person, like a company actually going through this. And I was like, oh yeah. So I went to Indianapolis by myself, go check out this EOS thing. And people are like, what are you doing here? It's like, I don't know, trying to figure out what EOS is. And by the end of that conference, I found about fractional people you can help augment your business with, different terms I'd never heard in this industry. It's like, I hate finance. I'm the head of finance. So I found that I didn't have to be that. So I have a fractional CFO in the business. I deal with the customer interactions that need to happen within there, but now that's primarily off my plate. And so it's being able to get in there, get the team all on the same page, define our core values. What do we believe in? And as Laura said, EOS is one way to do this. There's other ones that define this also, but this is the one that actually was simple enough for me to adopt and get in there. She came in, did the presentation. The team was like, yeah, we're on board with that. And then, so our first implementation piece, I was like, I wonder who's going to go for which roles in here. And we defined the roles and we defined all these different things. And I thought it was going to slam dunk. People gravitated to natural spots. They got their accountability. We weren't falling on top of each other when calls were coming through, tickets needed to be done, projects needed to be done. I didn't have to hire more people for more efficiency to happen in our operation. We actually lost a couple people in the process that decided to graduate on to other jobs because they didn't quite identify with our newfound purpose. But now we can do, twice as much work with the same people we're left with, implementing efficiencies, and the whole meeting, having a weekly meeting, that's a standing meeting that you go to and you do this whole, what are our issues? And everybody's entering in. We don't talk about them during the week. We talk about them at the meeting and then discuss and solve. Holy cow, we come out of there with a 7-day to-do. We get that, and all this stuff gets behind, and slowly you dig yourself out and it's a clear path. Now it's like, how do we want to do this? Let me go find a marketing person and talk to them about my core values. So that's how we sort of came to it, came up over the top, able to maintain and push forward with the same amount of people. And now we have more efficiency. Our customers are better informed, communicated with, and I enjoy it. So.
Yeah, so yours, to kind of summarize where you came from, started with, we want to grow,
Yep.
let's get marketing in place, and then recognizing maybe there's some foundational things that we want to have conversations about so that we can grow in a way that we can all be really on board with.
Yep.
I love that. Thank you for kind of taking us through that. Mike, you want to share kind of where you guys were that led you to start exploring structure?
A lot to follow, so I'll try to give a different perspective. No, that was good. We, as I mentioned, kind of called it a 4th generation company. So worked for the 3rd generation for many years. They had their way of running the company. It was actually 2 brothers that were quite different. And so I was sort of thinking about, okay, as we sort of take over, what's going to be the new culture? how are we going to do strategic planning? How are we going to do things like that? And so I had the opportunity to kind of take that step back and think about it, and basically as well stumbled across the books and a few different, I don't even know if there's podcasts at the time, but just kind of heard people talking about it a little bit. And as Ben said, a lot of things resonated. One of the great things about it is it's very elegantly simple. You know, we used to overthink strategic planning. I thought it was this like, you know, massive thing that you did once a year that was like, you know, only really smart people knew how to do it. And you had to hire super expensive consultants and all that sort of stuff. So strategic planning was one area. And then lining out the team, the accountability chart was another area. We had some wrong people in seats, and we had other positions that weren't clear. And there was frankly a lot that rode on, you know, 1 or 2 of us that kind of wore too many hats. And so between strategic planning and lining up the team were the 2 primary reasons. And then what happens is it sort of snowballs in a good way. Once you get going, you start to realize that these tools are pretty straightforward. They really apply to all of us. And then you just continue to learn and practice and get better at them. And, you know, the most powerful thing is all your people start pointing in the same direction. And so that's kind of how we get going.
Joe, I know you mentioned you were only with the company for a few months before you decided to start putting this structure in place. So can you talk a little bit about what you were noticing when you got there?
So Derek, our owner, is a very strong visionary. He's constantly reading books and finding ways to do things differently in the business. So when I joined, again, I came my whole career, 3 previous companies, from basically my first job was all Fortune 500 companies. And then all of a sudden now I'm joining this small family-run, not really small, but a family-run business, just complete. There's no corporate. It's us. And I think, so he's the one that found traction, had me read it, and then we had our leadership team read it. And again, it's a lot. So you'll probably be hearing us saying some terms that don't really mean anything to you until you really understand what that whole process is about. But to really make it simple, it's doing what you already are doing or should be doing and giving it structure. We all have visions, values, principles. We all have goals and targets. We all have meetings to discuss different things, but are we good at it? And our answer was, no, we're not. We just kind of customer centric. We take care of our customers and wing it to make sure our customers get the product. And we realized, no, we got to do this with some structure. And so this was a huge change for our team. First, just doing things just to get it done, then to doing things with a purpose. And that's what really EOS helped us excel at. It aligned the leadership team. It brought accountability to all of us to do what we say we're going to do and start improving the business.
Stacey?
I had 2 significant events happen. I lost my dad and my brother-in-law in a plane crash. They were my business partners. So I couldn't pick up the phone and talk to them. I couldn't schedule a meeting and meet with them. And it's lonely at the top. And the other thing that happened, it somehow got out that Stacey was going to retire. And so that continued. And of course, I had been researching what are my options to get out of this construction company. You know, do I go ESOP? Do I sell externally, internally? What do I do? So I had started researching that. So the next time we had a company safety-wide meeting, I said, yes, I'm looking at options, but that's 10 years away. I'm just researching what the options are so that I make the best decisions for the company, so the company keeps moving forward. And you will always be aware of what I'm going to do. You will all have your jobs. My goal is to keep the company going. So when I learned about EOS, I knew it was a perfect platform. So no matter what Stacey does and when she transitions out of the company is moving forward and all the employees know what the goals of the company are and what the processes are. And then the other thing is that while you're lonely at the top, you're always working in the business, doing multiple roles, keeping it together. But you're not working on the business. And this platform allows you to work on the business and has dedicated time to do that.
So I know we've heard a lot about the benefits. Anybody have anything specific, a specific benefit or a specific result that you've experienced so far with bringing structure to your business that you could share with everybody? Who wants to kick us off, Mike?
I'll tell one story that Laura and I laugh about, but one of the foundational tools has to do with, it's called a level 10 meeting. It's how you conduct your meetings. What's the rhythm? What are the agenda for those meetings? Who's in them, et cetera. And so when she was explaining that, we sort of learned about it. We had set it up, I think, as like a bi-weekly meeting. And I told Laura, look, we're not gonna have a weekly meeting because we really don't like meetings. And she says, yeah. And I'm like, no, really, we're not gonna have it every week. And she's like, you are, you're gonna like it. And she said, and one of the other things is, you know, a lot of your other meetings are gonna go away. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I scheduled the weekly meeting and then I look at my calendar and I've got like 12 other regularly scheduled meetings. You know, one with HR, one with my CFO, one with my sales team, one with operations. And she's like, all those can go away. And I'm like, there's no way those are really important, right? So now I have one meeting a week. Tuesday mornings is our leadership level 10 meeting. It's the only meeting on my calendar. It's unbelievable. Like, I didn't believe her when she said this, but, you know, it's just that rhythm is unbelievable. Like you mentioned it, you know, you don't talk about all these issues. There's no politics. It's like, okay, you got an issue, put it on the board. And then if it's important, you talk about it. So it gets rid of politics, gets rid of inefficiencies, duplicative meetings. And then that meeting itself, the format of it is, once you get the handle of how to do it, you actually have like a meeting with everybody engaged in the meeting. It's not like the old days where I used to go into a meeting and I would talk for 60 minutes and then we'd say, hey, that was a great meeting. I hardly even talk anymore. One meeting, I hardly even talk. And it's the most powerful hour and a half of our week, every week.
What I love too about that, Mike, is that more recently, I remember saying to you in a session, take up golf. And you were like, I hate golf. And what did I learn yesterday? Taking golf lessons, guys. So there we go. We'll see how that goes. Joe, how about you? A specific result or benefit?
I think the result we're getting quickly is accountability. You know, it forces you to hold people accountable when you have these L10 meetings. We do one every Wednesday. It's in 90 minutes and it is structured down to the minute, how we run these meetings. But that causes us to really improve our accountability. And I think that's something that I think we all deal with in business. We're busy. We got a lot on our plates. And without having structure, a lot of the things just go by the wayside. this keeps things in the forefront until it's actually solved and closed. So to me, it's accountability, and what comes with that accountability is also alignment. You know, you got everybody in that meeting. It's all various aspects of the leadership team. They're worried about their department. They're not looking at the big greater picture of all of it combined. Now they know what everybody else is doing and how it affects them, how it affects the business. So you get really good alignment in your leadership team.
Thanks, Joe. And I love that you point out alignment because we talk a lot about accountability. That's a big thing that I hear people saying, we're lacking accountability. But I think alignment is huge. It's making sure that everybody, especially at that leadership team level, that you're all on the same page with where you want to go and how you're going to get there so that you're able to present that united front to the rest of your organization. So thank you for pointing that out. Stacey.
Yeah, so we have internal processes that employees have been doing 10 to 15 years. And when we talked about changing those processes, there's always a roadblock, a no. And this has really changed our mindset. And so there's no more no, it's how do we get there? And what are we going to do to get there and test the process and then roll the process out? So definitely, and just a more positive working environment, more camaraderie with employees. It's great.
And anything specific?
What do you mean specific? So I am the squirrel of my company. And we get these little spirit animals and they crack me up. I said, that's corny as heck. They also gave me the bull, but that's okay. So I go on tangents all the time. I'm interrupting people. I was this guy coming in, hey, what about this? Let's go look at that. Did you hear about that? And people stop doing what they're doing because they, listen to me and it's like, don't do that anymore. So going into these meetings, there's something called a same page meeting, which is wonderful. So I'm the visionary. I also wear a couple other hats within finance and marketing, but my operations person, he is the one handling the rest of the team. They are asking him the important questions. He handles part of the leadership team also. If I have one of those squirrel moments, I keep it to myself and I put it into the same page meeting that I have on Mondays. Our level 10 is on Tuesdays. And he'll tell me, that's a good idea. Or let's wait until our next 90-day offsite to bring that up as maybe, we call them rocks. They're those 90-day things that you want to get accomplished versus the 7-day ones. And so as I see cyber coming down, I see different changes happening, different certifications I'm out trying to do and relationships I'm involved in. Things have to change and we're dynamic, but I can't be disrupting the team doing that. So having this meeting with my operations person to say, that's great, let's get that put into play now, or to say, let's hold off on that. And not a problem at all. It's like, great, at least we have it written down. We'll address it at one of our 90-day offsites. It works out well. And then just to reiterate, the whole level 10 meeting thing is the most wonderful thing. That once a week, 90 minutes. My team looks forward to this. They're excited. What do we got for issues this week? Now that we've got all the noise drilled away, which took us about a year to get those noisy issues. That it's like, where do these issues come from? Why do we have this? And we finally find the root of it, kill it. And now we have the fun issues. Like, hey, we're having a problem doing this. We can actually sit down and do some productive work. We come out of that thing just like, woo, ready to go and take on things. So, and the team feels completely empowered. And I know it wasn't the specific thing. One last thing that I got to put out there, process. How many of you hold your company process in your head? Good, everybody's got it documented. That's awesome. That was more than I had in the beginning. I had employee manuals, I had this, I had the other pieces and stuff. But when something happened, a triage call comes in. Some other specific event happens. What do we do with that? Customer onboarding, customer offboarding. How does that process work? A lot of it's stuck in my head. Having this had me write these processes down into 7 steps. And that took a lot of thinking. But once we got those done, and processes are different than procedures. Procedures are all the different things. Those change all the time. But the process is this, and this. And you're done. We have them hanging on the wall now. And it's great because the team can get up, new hires can get up and go look at this stuff. Where am I in the process? And they don't have to feel stupid. Here it is, documented right here on the wall. And if something needs to be changed, it comes up at our next meeting. All right, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
So I'll add to that point about processes. Kind of like I said about strategic planning, you tend to overthink things. I looked back last year at one of my sales processes that I had written, and it was like just a piece of our sales process. And it was like 27 pages long. Right? And at the time I thought like, I'm the man, I know. And I think back and I'm like, I even remember now the faces of my sales team when I showed it to them, they're just kind of like, yeah, okay, you know? And now that thing is like a picture and it's on one page and everybody knows it and it's hanging on our wall, you know? So it again gives you that simple tool, you know, as Laura says, it gets you 80% of the way in the process with like 20% of the words, you know, it keeps it simple.
Thanks, Mike. And just so you know, you're not required to hang your processes on your wall. That is not required. However, if that works for you, please go for it. Please do. All right. So, next question. Does anybody have lessons they've learned at their stage? Again, Stacey, you're a little bit newer. Mike, you guys have been going at it, I think, the longest of the group. Kind of just where you are, any lessons you've learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, anything you can share.
I will share that we are struggling with this in our level 10 meeting this week. I had to like push back and say, no, we're not going to revisit our accountability chart. But we've got people wearing multiple, we're a small company. There's 25 of us. And in the office, we have an integrator role, but that person in the integrator role is also a senior project manager and running projects. They immediately want to go out and hire for those positions so I can be an integrator. I'm like, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, how many hours a week do you think that is? It's probably 5 hours at most. So no, we're going to have dual roles and you just need to be patient because the company's not big enough to have a separate position. So there's a lot of pushback and challenges we're experiencing with that. And then probably in the very beginning, the awkwardness of when we did our accountability chart, we had someone that didn't fit into a box and then it didn't come to future meetings. And it was tough because that person does add a lot of value to our management team. So there was probably some hard feelings there, but just knowing that we're moving in a positive direction.
I think that's another thing for thank you for pointing that out is a lot of this work when it comes to the structure is I talk with my teams a lot about for the greater good of the business. All right, like when we're working on the business, we talk about working on the business versus in the business. It's really imagining yourself being like 30,000 feet above, acting like a board of directors rather than that employee that you are day to day, and making sometimes really challenging decisions, especially when it comes to our people. But all of those decisions need to be for the greater good of this company, all right? It's not for any individual person, even an owner, when we make those decisions. So there are some really hard things that have to happen to put that structure in place when you know that this is what the business really needs, even though it's hard. So, Ben.
We had a hard time with our hiring process. Do we hire because they have a ton of certifications? Do we hire because they have a ton of experience? Do we hire because they're super nice? They tell us what we want to hear. And it was tough. We had, I would go in, I thought this is what our job description was that we're getting for these new people coming into the business. I thought this is what we're looking for. Quick story that goes along with it is we finally said, okay, let's hire and fire to the process, to the core value. I was like, okay, here we go. So, went to ChatGPT, give us five-minute interview questions based upon our core values. And we list what those were. ChatGPT came back with 5 short questions and then give us 5 long ones for the 45 minutes. Should they make it to the next piece? Then I removed myself from the hiring process and I let my integrator, my operations guy, as well as my finance, she was wonderful, that we had involved at the time. I let them run with it. And I saw the applicants coming through. I was like, fantastic coding, fantastic customer support, fantastic experience. And they came to me, it's like, okay, we've got our finalist. I was like, awesome. Was it so-and-so with this and that? Nope. Was it this and that? Nope. What was it? It was a sous chef out of Freeport. I'm like, okay. And you know what? He has been the best hire I have ever had in 24 years. He wants to be there. He loves the work. He loves working with people. He can go through and do all the exams and the testing and everything else, and we help along. We work as a team. But that was fantastic. And that was a proof that that does work, because I was like, throwing the flag on it. They did it. Came in great. I'm excited for the next one. We just got to get more people into it. But that was my fun thing. Sorry.
Yeah, I would add, kind of build off what Pete's saying about sort of the team and the people. When we started this, I was wearing both the visionary and the integrator hat. And we didn't know who our integrator was going to be. So I have a couple of business partners. And then there's some non-owners that are on the leadership team as well. And literally, we went to a couple different meetings and we didn't know who that integrator was going to be. And as we learned about the role and the qualifications and the personality that's needed for that, a person that I didn't expect kind of came forward as the integrator. And he is unbelievable. We're very good complementary personalities. Like he's the detail guy, he's black and white, he loves processes, all of that. And, I can be the squirrel and, have all the ideas and manage the big relationship. So as you learn the power of simple role descriptions, but clear, so people know what their roles are, and then you get the right people in those seats, it's unbelievably powerful. And the thing that I've learned the most is the power, once that's in place, to what they call delegate to elevate. So like I've learned, I'm a recovering micromanager, right? And I've learned to trust people now that they understand their roles and they've been given the training to flourish, and to watch that happen is the most powerful learning that I've had so far.
I think for me, it goes back to the whole alignment thing again. We all have teams, and how well does the team work together? We're gonna have people in there that kind of fight change and do those things. You gotta focus on respect and honesty. Any other people have opinions, work to those opinions, and we struggled through that. We had some people that were just set in their ways and weren't gonna change, and we battled against it. And then once we reached that point of alignment, that's when we started to see a lot of changes within the company getting more positive.
Joe. Anybody have any questions for our panelists so far? I do have some time saved for Q&A, but.
I do. So we're 29, we're in our 29th year as a business. My brother and I founded the company back in '96, and we've got about a 12-person team. Everybody works well together. We have a strategic growth plan that we work on diligently. We've got buy-in from the whole team. Everybody has milestones. The accountability could improve. We've got a board of advisors that helps keep us accountable. And it's not perfect. I don't want to sound that way, but listening to all of you, I'm trying to understand where are the real challenges when implementing this. It almost sounds like harmony and perfect. Like there's got to be something there that, what were the true roadblocks to, I guess my question is, to get the buy-in from your team right through the organization? Because I'm probably the guy who's there talking too much and directing people on what they should be doing and why are they falling behind on things and so forth. My brother, he's more of a visionary. He's very smart, but he's a bit of a dreamer at times. So I'm more the implementer, executor, but we've got a bright team. They do a lot of great things, and we've been growing the company. And I've got this book on my desk and it's collecting dust. So it sounds like maybe I should dust it off. But that was a lot said, but I was just looking for a little more there on that buy-in and what were the true hurdles to really make that happen? I'm sure it wasn't easy.
I found that the one employee that puts up the roadblocks in our company and also doesn't complete things on time, when they have a to-do list and it has to be done in 7 days and they have to report back that they didn't get it done, there's probably a bit of a shame there that they have to step up their game and make this a priority. But that other person also, when everyone else in the room is saying, yes, we can do that. Yes, let's figure out how to do it. And they're saying, no. There was this evolution of self-realization that I saw from that person, realizing they'd start to say something and then they'd hold themselves back and go, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm thinking about how we can make this work, or I'm gonna make some phone calls to see how we can get that software to work. So a lot of empowerment and self-realization happens during this process.
Did that take hold?
I mean, we're only six
So,
months in and
Yeah,
we've
you're
accomplished
seeing it.
so
I
much.
agree.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
I can honestly say to you, I think all four of us up here and any other company that does it, it's not easy. We're making it sound like it's easy because we're into it a little bit. We're starting to figure it out. But the initial first 3, 4, 5 months was horrific. You get people in the room.
Say it like it is.
It was
That's what I want to hear.
We would leave the meeting and then people would come to me saying, why we're doing this? This is ridiculous. This is stupid. This, there was no buy-in. I dreaded having that L10 meeting. Here we go. I gotta sit through all the complaining and everything else. So no, it isn't easy. But that structure starts to work and that's when it becomes fun. So no, it's not gonna be an easy journey to get going. Again, everybody has different levels of leadership teams and everything else, so you may need to focus on something a little bit different than somebody else would have to focus on. But the key is understand that before you get going. You need to buy it. And that was probably our biggest failure was we read it. The owner and I said, we're doing it. And then all of a sudden, people were whispering behind our back saying, I can't have meetings. I don't have time for this. And then somebody else will say, well, I gotta put KPIs together for my team. What do I measure? Why do I gotta do that? And then it was difficult. And then when it started to gel, it's fun. We had our quarterly yesterday. By far the best interaction and quarterly that we've had so far. I sat there just smiling because people who were against it were the most vocal about improving different things yesterday. So it's a slow start, and then once it takes off, it's fun.
See, I didn't force it. I brought it to the table and said, hey, I want Laura to come and introduce this to you and let's talk about it, see if it's something that would work for us. And I got the buy-in from the beginning.
You need to.
Yeah.
I forced it.
Not like me.
I told everybody what my frustrations were. And I knew that there was a better way to do this and we needed to do up our game. And they, at that point, said, okay. Laura came in, and once again, this is not to plug the EOS thing the whole way. It was great having somebody be able to come in and at least give us 90 minutes, get people a general description of a framework. They're like, that would be cool. That would be nice. And not knowing where they were going to fit within that. But it also told them, if you're at this table and this isn't for you, this may be a good time to speak up about it too. So a lot of hard conversations in the beginning, but that first meeting, it like you guys say, it's tough. People are like, no, this isn't gonna work. And they fight, resist. Have a good operations person, that implementer. Because they will run the meetings and disseminate, get rid of the politic, get rid of all the extra little side talk. Here's the problem. How are we gonna solve this? Who wants to take that on for a week? Okay, somebody will take, and after a while, people understand it's not about emotions and other pieces. Let's get the engine running nice and smooth. And then let's go ahead and start bringing more of the fun in. I mean, it did. It took us probably a good 8 months to finally get everybody rowing in the same direction. But man, what it did was awesome. I mean, the quick side pieces, I was able to take a 6-week vacation, my first one in 24 years, with my family cross country, thinking, yeah, I'll be at those L10 meetings remotely. No, and they didn't want me there. When I came back, the place did not burn to the ground. Our net profit was up 3%. Probably because I wasn't spending the money. I don't know. But they had more stuff on the place. Like, Ben, we want to try this now. It's like, that's cool. When people finally buy into it and they're finally invested and they feel like they're empowered, they can really accomplish some great things together. So.
I think you're gonna get, every person you ask that question to, you're gonna get a different answer to. Because all of our businesses, we have similar challenges, but the biggest hurdle you're gonna face has to do with, what's going on in your world. It could be, for example, that, your brother is the visionary, but he's acting like the integrator. It could be like kind of those leadership challenges, right? I talked to one roofing company in Arizona. They started running on EOS. They're $100 million company. They didn't have a budget, right? Like, so they had unbelievable people, obviously, and they had some great processes, but they didn't have a budget, you know? So their scorecard was literally non-existent. So they had some hurdles in like learning how to run a business with that piece of the pie, right? So for us, we tried to self-implement at the beginning, like I said, and it was a good way. We didn't force it. I kind of said, guys, I think there's something here. Let's try this. Let's all read the books. And we dabbled in it for a while. And literally after, I can't remember if it was 4 or 6 months, but my leadership team said, Mike, like, we don't care what you say, we're hiring an implementer. And so obviously that's great buy-in, right? And I'm cheap, so I'm like, are you sure? I don't think we really need to, we can do it ourselves. And it's the best thing that we ever did. Because we're still learning. I mean, yesterday we had our quarterly and I learned a really powerful tool that, you know, I took note of and I even used it in the meeting at the end of the meeting. You know, it had to do with kind of going, you know, people maybe in the field coming to me about a problem. And the trick was I say, well, what did your manager say when you told them that? Right? Because they didn't tell them, you know, and they, you know, and so there's a great tool of me not micromanaging and reminding them that they really got to go to their manager and that we're all on the same team and all that. So there's an example, we're 3.5 years in and you're still learning little tools, you know.
Yeah, I think one of the things is, I tell people a lot is EOS specifically is simple but not easy. All of the tools are real world practical tools. Yes, they have names because we like to trademark things, but they're simple tools. But it's the harnessing of the human energy that can be really, really challenging. And people are often resistant to change, and this is change. And we say EOS and other things like this, they shine a light on your issues. So if your business has issues, you start to see like the cockroaches start to scatter. They don't want the light shined on them. So it's absolutely challenging. Like I applaud all of you for doing this work. I was in a company that started running on EOS after I was there, and it was really hard. It was really hard. So yeah, it's not easy, but it can be really worth it.
Hi, I'm Doug Packard. Part to answer to your question, and I think you heard it from every panelist. One of the attributes of a true leader is vulnerability. And every one of them decided they were going to show up differently. And until you model that, you can't expect them to show up differently and be honest about their strengths and their weaknesses and where they really fit in the organization. So I just found over.
Oh, that's gold, Doug. Thank you. Did you have?
So my question was kind of similar, just like, I'm April, construction. We're at the very beginning of our EOS implementation. So right now it's just the leadership team doing our leadership 10 meeting. But just kind of thinking of when we do implement for the entire team, like, do you have any tips or tricks for that, you know, initial, like, does it take a full day session where you're digging into EOS so that they're understanding what this is? Like, how do you push that out to your team? Whether or not there's buy-in, we probably day one, there's not going to be. But like, how did you get people to not just buy in, but also understand what the process even was?
Yeah, so there are tools out there to be used with EOS, with anything out there. I mean, but the, you know, one's specifically by EOS, the other one's by 90, and it outlines, there's a process to these meetings that we do. And everybody's like, meetings. Yes, however, there's a process. And once you get used to that cadence of what you're doing weekly with your team, and you're meeting about the same things, everything happens in the same order. It happens within 90 minutes and you're out. And if you're not done with everything by 90, you move it to the next week. You get out of that 90-minute meeting, but there's a process for it. And then to have your 3-month or your quarterly offsites, where we chose to use an implementer because I'm way too much of a squirrel to do it myself. I mean, I needed to have that guidance. I needed to have the mentor. And Laura doesn't know anything about IT, but she knows the process and she keeps us on track for those meetings. So following the process that's involved with it, whether it's EOS or something else, follow that framework. Don't try to modify it to be your own. Stick with it. It's a proven thing that's happened. There's other people using it. And if they do find there's a good change to happen, they'll put it into play. But once again, the process and the cadence of having it happen weekly, as well as the quarterly, as well as the 2-day offsite yearly. And some really good work happens at those big 90 and offsites. that happen.
And you guys are in a unique position too, Ben, because your team's a little smaller than like an average EOS client anyway. So you're, almost everybody on your team is part of the leadership team. So
4 out
it's
of 5.
a little bit, yeah, so it's unique when it comes to that rollout. Mike, obviously a bit larger, a few more employees.
Yeah, we, as I said, started on our own for a while. But when we really kicked it off with Laura, we started at our 2-day, that was our first ever meeting. So our kickoff was our 2-day annual planning session. But we were obviously all in there. In advance of that, Laura had us read a book, The 5 Dysfunction of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. And, I thought we went into that meeting and we all had like 100% trust of each other and everything. And as you start to read the book, you're like, yep, that's us. Yep, that's us. Yep, that's us. And, it really helped kind of set the table for why we were doing this and that, there were some issues there that we had to confront. And, if you don't have that trust, if you don't have the vulnerability, you're never going to start to hit strides with, these specific other tools. So I think that's a big one. And then, as you said, we built from there, 1-day quarterlies offsite, and then weekly leadership meetings, and sticking with those things, I think in that order is sort of how we did it. Hopefully that answers the question.
Can I clarify, April? Maybe I misheard, but I want to make sure. Are you asking about kind of rolling it through the rest of the organization beyond the leadership team?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you
I'll
able to
expand
speak a
that
little
on
bit?
that because we started with leadership.
Right.
And frankly, we were kind of in a vacuum. It was good.
That's what it feels like, yeah.
And I think we had to do it that way. If I had to do it over, I probably would still do it that way. Because, we had to get through those hurdles, the trust, all that. We had to get our rhythm. We had to get our understanding on how to do it and to sort of hit a stride. And then literally, so just this year, we chose to roll it out to the next level. We're not actually even doing our entire company. So like our guys on the roof, the foreman and our crew members, they're not, they hear about it, but we're not running EOS down to them. So it's starting at our superintendents and our manager level up. So it's really about, 30 people of our 130 member team. And I think that's probably where it's going to stay. So I do a state of the company quarterly and everybody hears that, but that's kind of, their exposure to EOS. They know what our rocks are. They know what our annual goals are. They know what our 3 and 10-year plans are. But like our crews don't have L10 meetings and things like that. Does that help further? But we did run, basically 2.5 years, really just at leadership with EOS before we rolled it to this next stage.
So April, we're a little bit larger, right? So we have the leadership team and we're doing all of the issues which kind of cover the whole plant and stuff, but we got people in the plant walk around saying, what's L10 meetings, what's EOS, and why do I see this and why do I see that? And the idea is for us, we want it right down to the machine operators. So it'll go from us and then our supervisors will have a team. So we have a leadership team with our meetings, and then the supervisors will have L10s with their teams and help teach them what EOS is, what their goals are, what their issues are, solve those issues and things. However, I think that's a tremendous amount of work to do that. So we're taking it slow. We just started now saying that we're gonna do it. We agreed to a monthly L10 instead of weekly, because again, these guys all run machines and stuff. The more times they're in these meetings, less we're gonna be producing. So, but we felt just once a month, L10 would be good to do the same thing. Set the team goals, set the team, path processes, and then have their own meetings to help solve it. But I think it's good because the operators, they have the vast majority of the business. They're running it. They know, because again, production efficiency is critical. They know. So we could do our meetings, but we're not really solving their problems, which in turn will benefit the whole company. So we want to challenge them to do it.
So are the operators just meeting amongst the operators?
It'll be the supervisors meeting with their department teams.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Got it.
So we're obviously new and we're just gonna roll it out to employees. So when we roll it out to the employees, we're having an hour meeting and then a social afterwards. And we're just going to roll out the VTO that, this is something that the senior management team has been working on. We will roll it out slowly to the rest of the office and then to superintendents. And I don't know if we'll roll it out beyond that, but still they need to understand our core values and our goals as a company so that we'll still share that information, but when they hear about it, they'll know what a rock means, the company rocks, so.
Yeah, I think one of the things is, we say that like 80% of the battle is getting all of your people being able to use and understand the foundational tools. But what I love about it is it really can be customized to what you need for your business. It's about getting what you want from your business and what that looks like. So I think each company has kind of their own individual path that they take. And also going at your own time frame, never rushing it, never pushing it at a certain pace. It's kind of letting your leaders understand they know their individual teams best and what does that need to look like in each individual department. So. Any other questions?
Real quick, if you haven't read it, what the heck is EOS? EOS is like the Reader's Digest version of the 10 books. I use that with every single employee. We had the distinct ability to do it as a startup, so everybody gets trained on EOS in day one as they come in the company. But that book, once they read that, the employees, I give it to anybody before traction. I'd read what the heck is EOS. It'll give you the quick and dirty on EOS, and people come out of that and say, oh, it makes sense. And that helps you kind of set the table to roll it out in the organization exactly how everybody else here is doing it. I've used that. I've literally handed out like hundreds of those books and have gotten positive feedback almost always on it. So definitely kind of a quick hack to get there faster.
That's kind of like one of my other questions. Does anybody have EOS podcast recommendations?
EOS has podcasts.
Yes.
So if you're into podcasts, they've got their Rocket Fuel podcast. There's like a more general EOS podcast. I don't know if any of you are podcaster.
My boss is.
Talk to Derek.
And Kathy too. I saw her behind the mic for a while.
Good chat.
April, one thing I could do is, again, to your point, I agree. So what we're doing is our owner is taking what the heck is EOS and making his own clip notes. And then that's what's gonna go to the next level of people to get an understanding of what it is before we start them on it. And I'll share that with you if you want. Once he's done, I'll send you a copy.
Amazing.
Thanks. Yeah.
Hey, quick observation and a quick question. Ricky Graff, Puzzle HR. So I used to sell HCM or payroll software, right? And I was so honest as a salesperson and like, this is not a non-event if you say yes. This is not gonna be easy, perfect, or seamless, right? And that would be very disarming. They're used to everyone selling the dream. So I'm just observing. It just sounds like it's worth it. That's the phrase I would say, is that it's worth it in the end. So that's what I'm hearing from you in different ways for different reasons. That it really, the pain, you're honest with it, it just sounds like it's so worth it. But my quick question is, Mike, all this new efficiency and some free time and taking up swinging a club, should Rory McIlroy be worried?
Just not putting.
Couple more lessons for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I can't understate that it is the single biggest change in a positive way that I've made for my business and my life, adopting EOS. I mean, simply put, I kind of missed my 30s because I was like wearing too many hats, stressed to the max, full speed ahead. And, got home at night and just had no energy for my family, frankly. So this now, my wife's like, why are you home? 3 o'clock. And I'm like, well, I went to the gym. So, don't tell my people that because they don't know that But, no, seriously, it empowered me. They did in saying, Mike, you are a visionary and there's value in that, cause I'm a modest guy and I don't like the term CEO or visionary or whatever. And they're like, that's okay, cause you're good at it and you bring great big ideas and you have great big relationships and like, that's what you should be doing. Get out of this meeting. you don't need to be here for this. And that takes a while to learn, but it's by far the single biggest positive change I've ever made.
And I think you guys probably all agree with me, didn't just improve my work life, it improved my personal life. I now take things with more structure. We got an issue, I'll sit with my wife and we'll discuss all through it, pros, cons, make decisions. It just overall made me, a better leader and a better father, husband.
I do want to mention that there's a lot of things that we think are problems within the business, but they're symptoms. And until you drill down and figure out what the root cause making all that noise is happening, you're still going to have those symptoms. You can go out there and chase the symptoms down all day long, but they're going to come back. And you're like, why didn't it come back? This process isn't working. That was one thing that I learned. I can echo what Joe and Mike said here, is just being able to use the process of identify, discuss, and solve, whether it's with my wife, my children, people at work, customers, being able to take their problems of what's happening there. It's like, let's drill that back down and let's figure out where okay, this is the root cause. Let's take care of that. And all of a sudden 5 other problems go away. That's cool. And doing that weekly during these, the level 10 meetings, the weekly meetings that we do with the leadership team, is great exercise to keep that top of mind. It's like you ride a bike, and the more you ride it, the better you get, the better in shape you are, the more mentally you're in it. That's what this does for you too. So it becomes second nature. After a while, it makes you much more efficient at what you do, and you get to enjoy more of life. Work to live, don't live to work. So.
And I would say employees are more comfortable bringing issues to the table now. Before it was like, I won't bother, nothing will get done. And now they bring it to the table and they see that something's getting done. So I think that's important, because there's things that are happening out there that you don't necessarily know when you're in the office. So
Really it changes the culture of the company.
I like that you just said that, Joe, because that was going to be one of my last questions, was how has your team and culture changed as a result of bringing structure in?
I think for me, it's the respect, trust, and holding each other accountable to drive the results that we're striving for. It changed that part of the culture to where I think before we were the family-run business who wings it and gets things done for the customers, to now we're structured and we're still getting things done for the customers, but a lot easier.
say for us, the employees have taken ownership. Stacey's not the owner. The employees have taken the ownership. So that's probably the biggest benefit.
We've freed up time. The efficiency, net profit's gone up, which was one of our rocks, and we finally figured out how to make that happen. We found the problem. That's gone up. Efficiency has gone way up. So handling issues that we get for phone calls and other things with our current capacity, we used to be at like 80% capacity with the number of people we had. We're down to about 30 to 40 now, which is wonderful. It gives us time, but we're like, okay, let's bring in more and do more. And this is something I brought up at one of our little events that we talk about quarterly, is we do rotating 3-day weekends now with everybody in the team. Whoever had the duty the week before from Sunday to Sunday, that following Friday after they're off duty, they get off and they get to go do a 3-day weekend with their family. And once again, those are the things that have built our camaraderie, our values within our team, and our culture. It thrives on that. I asked the team, and we always put it out, like, we love the 3-day weekends. We love the goals. We love the meetings. We love being heard. It's like, well, that was easy, and this really helped us put it forward. It wasn't an easy beginning. I don't want to put it out that way, but now it is just the benefits that come through. Man, after doing this so many years, that weight is off my back, and I can feel the other people enjoying that too. So.
For us, like, if you asked me 10 years ago, I thought we had a really strong culture in our company. And now I look back and it wasn't even close. Our culture has grown so much. Our employee engagement has really dramatically improved. And one of the things I've learned is like communication. We used to be really secretive, like we didn't talk about profits or margin, for example, right? Because we thought, maybe the field team would think we were making too much money or couldn't handle that information. And now we talk about that and they're on board, right? They're like, yeah, we should make money, that's why we're here. And, also getting the right people in the right seats, if you're a person and your personality doesn't match your seat and your roles, you're not going to be a happy person, right? And in the past, we would just kind of lean into that and grind through it. And, I can think of certain people that were in the wrong seat for like 10 years. I was kind of wondering why they were so unhappy, right? So, there's just these things that happen when you get the right people in the right seat, pointing in the same direction. You have open communication with people, clear accountability. Your culture just, it's a bell shape, it just takes off. It really does, right? Exponential curve, I should say. So our culture has dramatically.
There's a question online.
Sure.
So question for the panel, what has your startup implementation cost been for EOS logistically? We discussed what that might look like.
I'll jump in. Clarity. Laura's like, whatever, time me out. No. No, it was relatively affordable. Let me give it a little bit of backstory. I went to the COS conference. I'm talking to the camera now, because I know they're out there. No, went to the COS conference out in Indianapolis. I saw implementers anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 a session. And you're like, that's an 8-hour session. It's like, holy cow, that's a lot of money for different things. I found somebody who was right in our backyard in Topsom, but she just moved down to Boston. And, but she said, Laura McDowell just started an implementation group up there in Warm. And, I don't want to give details, but Laura was very reasonable with her cost. And it was something that I was able to break that up and be able to budget that in to do it. But it is a per day cost that you pay for this. Outside of that, it's your time within the business. And the better you use the tools that you're using, if you're going to go in on this and have an implementer involved, use the tools that are presented to you in the fashion they're made to be used and move forward. And you'll find your efficiency will start going up. Your costs, you'll start making more money. And you're like, why didn't we do this earlier? Definitely now we have a budget line for this because we're not spending in all these other inefficiencies we were doing before. So if that doesn't hit it directly, for numbers and stuff, just understand that it's not expensive to get an implementer involved with it. And there's not really too many other costs that we had outside of this, other than our time to get things put in order and get our processes documented.
So I'd say those costs are spread out through the year. When you first start, it might overlap 2 years. I will do a plug for the Alphon Foundation. They do support EOS, and you can put and get in up to $1,200 a person towards the cost. So that makes a huge difference. And that's once a year that you're allowed to do that. And then the other cost that we had is I made sure that we bought all the books for the employees. So if there were leadership books or EOS books that Laura recommended, then we purchased those and, just did that through Amazon. So.
It's not an expensive endeavor to start. Really isn't.
There's also some free resources too.
Yeah, so
Oh,
there's different ways you can implement EOS. We've already heard from some people that are currently we call it self-implementing, so doing this work on your own. I know, Mike, you mentioned you guys were self-implementing in advance. One of the things I love about EOS, it's a franchise, so I'm a franchise owner, is that they make all the tools available. So you can go right onto the website. You can go to my website and download all the tools for free. I will not get your information. I will not email you or call you, I promise.
No solicitation.
No solicitations. You get all those tools for yourself. There's tons of informational blog posts and videos and all that stuff. So you could do it that way. The kind of next tier is there's what they call Base Camp, and that's a monthly subscription that you pay. I think it's like maybe $700 a month or so. And you have access to training videos and things like that you can essentially teach yourself to use the tools. And then, of course, the next tier is working with an implementer. So I am one of about 850 implementers around the world that help businesses implement EOS. The average client stays on with an implementer for about 2 years or so to get to a place where they feel like they're really able to run their meetings, have that foundational knowledge of the tools. They feel like they're about 80% strong in each of the key areas of their business. Some like having that third party on because it's, we facilitate, we coach beyond just teaching the tools. But it's really up to the individual business. So we have a proven process, but there's lots of flexibility within that as well. So different ways that you can use
And
tools.
I do have one shameless solicitation. We do have our EOS think tank group that meets 4 times a year where people who are using this. And then this panel too, we have, what's unique about that is in the Institute, we have family business members and we have associate partners. So those are bankers, lawyers, accountants, or individual coaches. Ben is an associate partner. He's not a family-owned business, although it might feel like family with your group. But the others are family-owned businesses. So it's any business. It doesn't need to just be family-owned. I mean, and this think tank, I've learned a lot, we put all the different issues and things up on the board and then we help them solve and then there's accountability for it. And Joe's in the group and Ben's in the group and so is April. I don't know who else might be, but you can, I think the group is, I sit in it too, and I think it has helped people.
I took three pages of notes from the last meeting and I referred to them in almost every LTEN meeting. Just things that were said and direction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a great meeting.
And the group holds each other accountable too, like you say, okay, well, you're gonna do this, and then they hold each other accountable. So it's another peer group to help you if you want that resource.
Is there another question? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's just projective question saying like, if Yoda was here, he'd probably ask, what does it cost to not do it?
Sold.
It's hard. I was gonna do the voice. What did it cost?
Yeah.
It's all hard costs, but and for all your numbers, folks, right? But soft costs, like what really the cost of not doing it? Sorry, the salesman in me had to ask.
No, I hear you. And of course, I mentioned at the beginning, this is not a sales pitch for EOS. There's lots of different ways that you can do this. But that is a question that comes to mind to me when I talk with a business owner who's interested in EOS and unsure about the investment and unsure how the team is going to take it. And you never want to sound like sleazy and salesy, but it is kind of the like, hey, you came to me for a reason, right? You're experiencing some challenges with your business. Usually you got to be in a lot of pain to call somebody like me because you have no idea what's on the other side if you weren't referred by somebody that you know. What is that cost of not doing something? Like a year from now, where will you be? What will be different? What will have changed? So again, I cringe at the thought. But that being said, like I said, I was a client before I was an implementer, so I got to experience it, and I felt so strongly about it that I decided to make this my whole thing. So, yeah.
I think we would be stagnant. Look, just realizing we've probably hit the ceiling for the last 3 years and haven't really done anything about it. And we've been talking about getting a second estimator because we want to grow, but we really we're not putting in the steps to do it. And so before we started EOS, we were like, yeah, in a year or two, we'll hire a second estimator. We went through this process. We're like, we're hiring that guy now or gal, but we're hiring them now. So yeah, I think it opens your eyes.
Really quick, is like, I don't know if I can do really quick, but I usually try. You get your life back is what happened with us. Where you dread going into work, you dread with dealing with certain issues, you dread with dealing with certain personnel issues that happen within a business. This works those pieces out, having this framework in there, because when you have this problem, great, we go through it. What's the root cause? Yep, let's take care of that, put that in, discuss it. If it doesn't, but being able to handle it on a day-to-day basis, we enjoy, in my team, I can tell. Usually we had a 6-year life expectancy for any new tier ones coming through our business. I thought by one of the people that's been with me for 23 of the 24 years, I thought he was on his way out. He was just tired of doing this. We have got new life in the company right now. After doing this for a year and a half, because we enjoy, we know what our jobs are, and we know that we can take time and get out. We get done what we're doing. We all have fun doing it, and let's go take some time off. Go spend some time with your family. And those are the benefits that you get, is being able to free yourself up because you're meeting your goals. And then, okay, next we got to get bigger goals. Great. But once they achieve things, they feel that benefit of it and they feel empowered to take care of it. So it just changes the whole attitude.
Yeah,
The word count on life
Yeah.
is really getting high, like on top of all the business efficiency that we're talking about. You guys, between the four of you, the word life has come out like at least 7, 8 times now. Sorry, Mike.
I was gonna say, it usually comes up in my conversations with peers or, other business owners when they either say, man, I'm just getting burnt out or whatever, and that usually kicks off that conversation. I'll just say, well, why are you burnt out? What's going on here? And it literally is kind of like, I've had this conversation now like 20 times and I'm waiting for my commission checks from. It's like, well, if you really want to work on this, here's what you just need to do, and call her and do this and do this. And it's like the recipe for that. And the other one is, and in our case, like I was getting stressed and burnt out, but I could also see it happening to my team. And I didn't want that I care about them, right? I didn't want them to be, literally getting sick from the stress and the thing. So we were all running at 110, 120%. So I guess thinking back, that's really the single biggest thing of how we got into it is I'm like, there has to be a better way. Life doesn't have to be this way. And we just stumbled into it and got it from there.
Do you want to make any last comments there, Joe? No pressure.
No, I'm good on that.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, and he asked about what it costs if you didn't do it. Reminds me of the executive asked the HR person, what if we spend this money on training and they leave? HR person says, what if we don't and they stay?
Again, there's a lot of potential savings, but like you said, a lot of it is soft too, right? But you could also have some good direct savings. So if you have your goals, so we want to pick our revenue to 50 million. And then we monitor that weekly, each weekly results. And if we start seeing our trends not aiming towards that 50 million part, then we start having IDS solving it. Why are we behind budget? And then we get back up to that budget. So yeah, you recommend hiring an implementer, but that cost comes back in efficiencies that you're definitely going to.
I think you need 5 minutes.
I need 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, so we have 2 minutes.
Okay, this will be super quick. I'm a finance person, but I'm gonna move away from finances. Can any of you talk about right person, wrong seat, particularly in the leadership role? And it sounds like, Mike, that may have been you. And what that looked like getting them into the right seat.
Well, we started where I was wearing 2 hats, right? That wasn't necessarily a disaster. It sort of worked okay, but it was, stressful for me and the rest of the team could see that. I'll give you a totally different example though. I've learned that to be on the leadership team, you have to be able to think like an owner. Okay. And some of you know what that means and some of you don't, and I don't even know how to strictly explain it, but we had a person recently select off of our leadership team. Wonderful person. She's still with us. Love her. And she's amazing at her job. But in hindsight, being on the leadership team was actually stressful for her. And her participation and what she delivered wasn't kind of at par for what she does in her day job. And it actually took our integrator to kind of boil that down and have the conversation with her. And so she's no longer on our leadership team. So I think learning what it means to be, the simplest way I can put it is you got to be able to think like an owner. And if you've got that trait, then you want to have complementing people on that. And then you focus on the trust piece of it, those 5 dysfunctions. Once you get all those things aligned, then your leadership team's going to take off.
Does that help at all?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm a facilitator, so I got to stick to our timing, guys. But I want to just thank you all so much for being here and sharing your stories and being vulnerable. That is a huge part of it. Thank you all for your questions and kind of helping move us along. So we've heard a lot today. I hope that maybe we've accomplished some of those goals I set out, those relatable stories. ideas that maybe you could be bringing back to your team. And of course, recognizing we're all kind of in this together, this messy, human, challenging stuff that we kind of have to go through if we're going to build something meaningful. So thank you all so much again. Thank you, Kat. Thank you all for being here, and I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you all very much. This is a great example of where we like to bring in best practices, and then we talk about the Paul Harvey rest of the story. It's like to actually do this. So thank you all so much for coming and speaking. Brooke might like a photo of us at the end, so if you could stick for a minute. And thank you, Laura, for doing that. And I'll go get my basket because you have some killer door prizes here. So if you guys, there's a survey on your desk. If you wouldn't mind, please filling that out for us because it helps us. Sure, yeah. We have pens out front if anybody needs them, or I can bring them in. It really helps us plan our programs and put those out, and any ideas or thoughts. And if anybody knows any family businesses, to nominate them too. So I'll be right back with my basket. And if you don't have a business card, you can fold your name tag in half, and then we'll give away some door prizes. So be right back.
So if you question, did you have individuals that were